So Dr. Spar,
Yeah.
aka Miles, um, we have been friends for well over 35 years now. All right?
We were in pre-K.
Pre-K together, because we're that young. But we have been colleagues for a very long time as well, in this beautiful world of functional and integrative and lifestyle and longevity and all these amazing things. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about the work you're doing? Because you've done, in the time we've been working together, some incredible work, moving through some different areas. And I think maybe I'll hand it over to you and let you know, like, who is Miles Spar and Dr. Spar, and what is the spaces you work in? And then maybe I can ask you some questions after that.
Sure. I mean, I feel like I'm very happy to say my career's kind of come full circle in a lot of respects. I started in this whole, I call it integrative medicine, lifestyle medicine, regenerative medicine. It's just the right kind of medicine, obviously, right? But I came into this lifestyle medicine and whole person approach through the integrative medicine realm. And I started that really from a standpoint of access, of wanting to make sure everyone could have access to this type of approach where, as clinicians, we're looking at all aspects of their wellness in terms of what does that patient want to achieve in their life and how do we make sure they can achieve that. To me, health is not the absence of disease, it's growth. It's not even just not being sick, it's truly being able to grow. And actually, you and I had a discussion in New York about how, what are we on this planet for? And it's all about growing and learning, and I've always believed that's what health fosters, hopefully. Obviously, if you have a serious illness, that needs to be dealt with. But from a standpoint of everyone should have access to that. And so, in fact, when I learned integrative medicine, it was from humanitarian work I was doing abroad and domestically. I worked at a free clinic for 17 years in California, implementing integrative medicine there. And so they then branched out and did a lot with men's health because a lot of men weren't accessing integrative medicine. They didn't know that they could look at prevention and wellness. They were waiting for things to get broken, by and large. And that's a big generalization, and that could apply to women as well. It's anyone who thinks like a stereotypical male often wasn't thinking about prevention or abstract notions of what they do now impacting their health in the future. So I was really drawn to helping access in that way as well, in terms of making this type of medicine accessible and understandable. And now I'm doing it with populations that wouldn't be able to afford to actually talk to a practitioner, like a health coach, which we utilize in my company, or being able to understand their risks, like their genetic risks, and understand what they can do and to empower them. A lot of our patients that I see now at Ant Health, where I'm the national medical director, have never been told that what they eat, what anything they do in their life can impact diseases that they've been diagnosed with. And it's so empowering them to learn that they can do things that can affect the course of their illness and help them grow. So that's a very long-winded answer to your question, but that's...
I'm going to take the mic back. So one of the issues I've been having in this world of longevity and all these incredible interventions and beautiful supplements is that what comes across is something out of an elitist access to health span and lifespan and like great supplements, great interventions, infrared saunas, IV and stuff. And the one thing that makes you quite unique, so I'm going to make sure everyone knows, is that right from the beginning, you've always had kind of one foot in serving the underserved and one foot in this kind of more specialist, like really high-end medicine. And yet I'm not seeing enough of that. I'm not seeing other people like you doing the work you're doing. So how do we move forward? We're at A4M. We're surrounded by some incredibly, powerful interventions, but actually, you're probably the only clinician I'm talking to who I know has been on the ground and has really harnessed integrative medicine to serve the underserved. So what would be your advice to kind of anyone in the space of how we do better?
Well, first of all, I'm not the only one. So there are a lot. They might not be at this conference per se, but there's a whole organization, Integrative Medicine for the Underserved, and there are a lot of people, and a lot of my colleagues are looking at doing this work in diverse populations and improving access. So I don't want to feel like I'm the only one. I think, though, what we all need to do as a field of lifestyle integrative medicine is be able, and actually 3x4 genetics helps with this, be able to provide on-ramps that are more financially accessible and more understandable to patients. So it's overwhelming to practitioners and patients when you say, in order to really fully give someone a care plan, you need to do thousands of dollars of testing and use some of these advanced machines that we see around this exhibit hall here. No, you can start with really focusing on what is that patient's goal. That's free. That's just your conversation with them. What do you want to achieve? Okay, let's just look at one or two pieces of information that we need to know to be able to give you one step toward that goal. And that's where actually 3x4 genetics can come in. It's not a crazy expensive test. It's much cheaper than a lot of other genetic tests, but it tells you where you might want to start, because where someone's kind of weak links, and I know that's probably not 3x4 genetics approved lingo, but it gives you a sense of, okay, here's where one person might need to do more work than somebody else. And this is not a paid advertisement. I don't get paid to say this, but it's true. It's like being able to somehow train practitioners that just start with one way of knowing how you can help a patient move in the direction they want to move in, and not start with a whole approach where you're doing 20 things that are just going to overwhelm a patient anyway. And I'll just add to that, that's how we work with our health coaches. We tell the health coaches, do one thing at a time. We use Tiny Habits, which is a great methodology by
It was written
BJ
by-
Fogg.
That's right.
All right, BJ Fogg is an amazing PhD behavior change scientist from Stanford. And literally, our health coaches are only allowed to work on one thing at a time with a patient. I'll write up this whole care plan. I want a patient to take all these supplements and start meditating and start sleeping better and use a device to track their stress and their sleep and take medication and get labs done. And the health coach is like, okay, whatever Dr. Spar said, what is the thing you think would make a difference and what matters to you? What do you think you could do? Right. That's called focus mapping. And so I think that's what anybody could do. And you don't need to do special training in underserved medicine just to realize, let's not overwhelm patients. Let's just start with one simple thing.
Yeah. So 2 stories, because I always like to have a few stories. So Miles and I have been friends since 1987, which is some time ago. And we lost touch for about 25 years or something. And as
There was no Facebook back.
there was,
No,
I didn't think we had cell phones.
we took years. We didn't definitely ourselves.
We were writing aerograms to each other. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't.
Rudimentary email, like dial-up internet.
Yeah.
But anyway, and you and I lost touch for 25 something years. And so one of the things that I'm most grateful for 3x4, and I'm grateful to 3x4 for so many things. But one of the things that I'm super grateful is it's actually 3x4 that brought us back together again. So do you want to tell the story? Should I tell the story?
What?
Oh, you go and then I'll add in, because I always do. Yeah.
Okay, so occasionally I would try and find you, and you didn't have a big profile online. So anyway, so I'm going for a run, and I'm listening to a podcast where the podcaster did a 3x4 genetics test, and you were walking him through his results. And I'm like, wait, that voice sounds really familiar. And then at some point he says, Dr. Yael Joffe, and I was like, holy, oh my God, that's somebody that I knew a million years ago, and we had a very strong connection back in 1987. So I literally reached out to the podcaster. I was like, I need the contact information for Yael Joffe. And I guess I emailed you. I don't remember how I reached out. I LinkedIn you.
Are you the Yael
Yes.
Joffe that I knew 25 years?
Yes. And I was like, I don't even, and it's funny how our brains work, right? Like in my mind, you were a very important friend and connection and just a real seminal person in my life. But then your brain starts to play tricks on you, and you're like, well, I wonder if she even felt that way about me. Did I have any kind of memory in in your brain? And so I was like, I don't know if you remember me, but blah blah blah.
I don't know if
Yes.
But actually, the funny part of the story is when you heard Dr. Yael Joffe, you thought she was a bit of a mess in 1987. How the hell did she become a Dr. Yael Joffe? That's what you really thought.
A militant revolutionary.
I was an activist.
Yes. I was literally thought you were
barefoot. I don't think I wore shoes for a year.
yeah,
Yeah,
you were either in jail.
in jail. That's really nice. In jail for political activism, right? It's just say, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
That's for the right reasons, for the right reasons.
So you and Mandela were like, I need to sum up.
And you're like, she became a PhD. I don't know. How did that happen? Anyways, so that is
The
great.
weird thing is that we had such synergistic, well, not just a connection personally, but such a synergistic professional night after having never obviously because they're notes. We came to basically the same type of.
And when we knew each other, I was doing art.
Yes.
Like, I had no desire to be inside. You were writing. I was writing. I was Roy's architecture. And we took this beautiful couple of decades sort of landed up in the same space. And I know, it's very special. And now the second question, I forgot it. I had another story. The story's gone. But it is been an amazing journey being able to share 3x4 with you and have Antel use 3x4. I must work many times of our role night. And one of those areas, and I'll just touch a little bit big first, in addition to your incredible work at Antel, the other work is the one thing that you're doing, still known for, is this reason, men's health. And I know for the story. And when you came, I remember the story. So when I launched 3x4, it was in May 2018 in South Africa. And you were back in my life and a very big part of my life. And you flew out to Cape Town, South Africa to be at the launch event of 3x4 Genetics. And here we are, 6 years later. It's a bigger company now, but they're not there. But you have walked this journey. Maybe you just share with me, like, where you have seen that kind of evolution of 3x4. I'm probably wearing shoes now. I've been, not likely to go to jail. But other than that, like, where have you seen the greatest evolution in that time that you watched 3x4 kind of grow up?
Yeah. For sure. I think a lot of, obviously, in the last year and a half has been around making 3x4 genetics tests more approachable and simpler. That's how to conscious effort. I think it was good. I think it was parts improvement safe because you are so dedicated to the science and to making sure that anyone use the test understands what it's good for and what it isn't and what it needs to be helpful for patients, helpful for eating. And for you, that was to root practitioners only. And I respect that. We all respect that. But we knew that was limiting, and that made it not as accessible to patients. And so I think that's where I've really seen it evolve, is your openness to say, let's figure out a way to make it more accessible and approachable to consumers, still without dumbing it down. That's a very part that we're still worried. How do we make it still much more kind of significant than at a test, that a general really good policy or whatever, or some other lab that doesn't really go into depth, but not so much that you can't understand. And that's where having the recommendations, having, the recommendations for lifestyle, for supplements, for nutrition, and really making it available. I think that's where the part that is super exciting, but also on the education of that, one thing that was always drew me in from the beginning is the advanced education that y'all had through other companies, Manuka and the other companies, and it was really quality coming from this place that I want, but I understand how much this could impact the care of nations. And so I think that persists even in the sugar-oriented cars of the work you're doing, educate consumers. So yeah, it's been exciting.
Wow, thank you, Mom. Always so happy seeing you, artists. I know it's like our friendship was up and for the next 25 to 30 years. Thanks so much.